All right, let's talk about hips in this video. We're going to focus on doing some basic motor control for the hip joint. With this drill, we're going to start off by just learning it from a really basic position. So all you'll need is something to hold on to for a little bit of balance. We're going to go into this position with one leg out in front. This is the one we're going to be focusing on. Nice tall posture, focusing in on the hip joint. From here, we're going to draw a circular motion. So try to draw a circle in front of you. And then try practicing the other way. And the idea is to really isolate the hip joint. So just be wary if the pelvis is moving, if you're bending in any direction. Take your time and really try to get a smooth motion of the hip. The goal is to have a lot of control across that circle, make sure that's a circular shape, and then you can slowly start to progress that. So if that hip circle felt good in front, you can control it. Now let's challenge different positions. So let's say we're up in this position and you were good doing your hip circle here. You have good control. Now we can work on a different position. So this would look like going across the body as one of the positions. We want to make sure our pelvis is nice and still. In this position, you'll probably feel kind of the groin muscles turning on. And we want to start to master hip circles here. Trying a couple one way and the other way, noticing if there's any points that are kind of shaky or it's harder to draw. Those are probably some signs for you or clues that you should be working on that area. If you do crossbody, we're good there. We can explore going to the side. So again, one more time, this time leg to the side. I'm going to make sure my pelvis is level, so it's not tipped up or tipped down. Trying to be as level with the pelvis as possible. And then drawing circles back here. We can kind of feel a little bit more of the glutes. Abductors kind of working on the hip there. And then if we're good with doing the leg out to the side, the last one we can do is leg back. So for example, I'm going to be here. This one might feel a little bit easier to do if you're on a step so that your foot doesn't touch the ground. But just so you guys see it, I'm going to be here. Leg's going to go back. So this is the hip extended position. Spine's nice and tall. Very common to kind of lean forward to do this. So make sure you're nice and tall and then take that leg back. And then you're going to draw your hip circles from there. A couple in one direction, a couple in the other direction. So those are the 4 positions you can play with. Let's take it one step further. So we can be a little bit more precise with what positions we want to focus on and how the hip is actually rotated. So before, if you found those positions were good and you kind of found some sticky spots, perfect. Those are areas to work on. Another way to approach this is to find out if external rotation or internal rotation feels stickier, and then going into those 4 positions and challenging the hip circle from there. So for example, let's say I have my left leg out in front, or my right leg out in front. I'm going to test to see what external rotation feels like and internal. And then just make a mental note. Does it feel tighter to go outwards or inwards? And even notice if your pelvis needs to shift or your body's trying to shift when you do that. Try to make sure it's just isolated to the hip. Now, let's say it's tighter for me to go internally. I can practice now my hip circles from here. This area is probably unknown for my hip to be in and to even control the hip in that position. So you might find from the neutral position, this was easy. But then when you turn it into that tighter position, it's harder to do. And that might be an area you actually need to focus on. And again, like more clues as to what you should be focusing on to get better maps of moving your hip joint. And again, you can take that as far as you like. Maybe you find that, okay, this is tight, and then we can go across the body, one of the 4 positions, and do our hip circles from there. Okay? Or it could be out to the side and doing our hip circles there. Okay, so start to find out what rotation do you find the most challenging and focus on there so that you can start to progress the control in your hips, overall the mobility being better. So this is another way to kind of progress this. There's many different ways you can challenge it, but we can be even more position specific. So for example, if I'm working on a squat and I'm trying to get deeper into that squat and be more comfortable there, maybe I want to do my hip circles in that position, kind of mimicking it. Let's say my right hip is tight when I come down to the bottom of the squat. Well, when I'm at the bottom of the squat, both my hip is flexed and my knee is flexed too as well, with my ankle tilted up. So what I can do is kind of mimic that standing. So let's say I bring my leg up, so my knee is bent, my ankle is bent. Now we're in a position specific angle here to mimic that squat. Now I'm going to do my hip circles here. So this is very specific to that squatting position. Okay. And again, in this position, I can explore with internal rotation and try to do circles here, external rotation, or even try to go cross body out to the side. If you go back, you're going to lose some of the flexion, but that's how you can kind of be more specific. So if there's a position that you're tight in with your hips, try to go into that position and just do basic mobility drills there. And then lastly, make sure you reassess after each time. So when you do a drill, let's say before you even start this, you can squat down, see how the squats feel like, and then go into one of those hip positions and do your hip circles. Then go back and retest the squat and see if that feels better on your hips. Everyone's going to react differently. Some of you guys are going to feel better. Some of you might get tighter, or some of you might not get a result. So it's about kind of finding that minimal effective dose that's the best for your nervous system so that the change can happen and make your movement feel more fluid. So again, retest after each movement, see which one feels the best, and also identify maybe those weaker areas that need some more attention. And those weaker areas, again, could be like stickier points where it's like choppy as you're moving through it, or really hard to control. Awesome, guys. So start doing these drills. Start with 3 to 5 reps at a time and try to build up some more confidence and positioning in or control in those positions. And then make sure you're assessing and reassessing after each time, seeing what's giving you a benefit, maybe what's actually making you tighter so that you can note that. And then that will help you build your programs, build your warm-ups, or even just calibrate your body so that you're ready to go into whatever you're trying to work on. Hopefully that was helpful, guys. Okay, awesome. So basically go back and try these movements out 3 to 5 reps at a time, really trying to focus on good technique with doing them, good posture, breathing with it, making sure you're kind of balancing out how much tension you're putting into the movement and starting to get more efficient basically with the movements each time you do them. Always also go back and test and see if it's actually making a difference. So test your hips out, whether it's squatting or it's a certain movement that you feel stuck in. See if you can improve that by doing some of these hip movements. Sometimes you'll also see benefits in other areas of your body. So you can always assess other areas too. It doesn't need to be very specific to the hips every time. So take that back. Hopefully that helps you guys improve your training, get more precise with it, and improve your motor control in your hips.